And I know Cap as an owner, and thank you for crashing in, because I know that you and Greg are like busier than me. You're like the busiest dudes on the planet. Awesome. I wanted to, since we mentioned San Diego Loyal, as an owner, I know that you, as someone who is a caretaker for this sport and going into this league, seeing what happened out of San Diego yesterday, disappointing on a bunch of different fronts, the personal, the soccer, and the business for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a shame because, I think they had a pretty good thing going there with San Diego. A good team, seemed like pretty good ownership, obviously Landon being involved. Yeah, it's disappointing and sad, for the USL Championship for sure. Honestly, it kind of expected from my perspective, at least. It's really difficult for one city to have multiple soccer teams, especially with this MLS team coming in and being new. Yeah, sad reality, unfortunately.
What would be, and I guess this is turning into a two-part question, what's the biggest thing that you've learned in birthing a franchise, knowing all of the pitfalls and all of the things that you have to do to dance to make sure that everything is there? I guess what's been the biggest learning experience in all of this for you, getting something off the ground?
Yeah, I think there's two things. One is how much red tape there is. It's just unbelievable how much support you need politically within the area that you're trying to build a team, and just how difficult it is to do anything and everything. And the second thing, and it kind of goes along with it, is how many people want you to fail or are hoping that you fail. It seems like every little thing, it's like, oh, see, I told you the soccer team would fail, and oh, they're just out here stealing money, and oh, this and that. And it's like, people, we're trying to do something good for the community. It's not, it's just for the betterment of everyone. And, it's just, that's been a little eye-opening. But the red tape is just the biggest one, where it's just like, there's just so many different aspects that go into it. And we're building a stadium, which is, probably adds to it. If we weren't building a stadium, it'd probably be a little bit easier of a process. But just going about it, and, permits and this and financing, and, there's just so much.
And it sounds like, and I know that it is, but hearing you venture all of this stuff out, it sounds mentally exhausting because you want to do something great for the sport. But even just hearing you in that last, minute and a half, it sounds like it's an exhausting process, because you're fighting all of the naysayers, which I would hope that there would be not a lot of them, considering what you want to try to do in a community when you're bringing an expansion team in. But it sounds exhausting at times.
Yeah, for sure it is. But like with all good things, right? It's like you have to go through the grind, and we've gone through the grind the past year and a half or so. And, there's been members within the organization that have grinded a lot more than I have, right? I've been more focused on the sporting side of things and less on this other side of things, where really they've been having to grind a lot. The naysayers are always louder than the support. And that's unfortunate, but, I think that there's reasons why people are, pessimistic about it. There's, I don't know if you know about the Kurt Schilling fiasco in Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah.
His business. So people are, and even though that was a long time ago, people are still, and I mean, the state's still paying today for it. So people are apprehensive for sure about sports teams, and, the Paw Sox leaving, that hurt the state. And so, it's similar to like love, right? You dive in, or you don't, so that you never have to get hurt, or potentially get hurt. So, but we're in there for the long run, not to hurt anybody. That's for sure.
So Bam, who watches us, let's see, 12, so it would be 11:40 in the evening. Bam, this is Bam's programming in Australia before he goes to bed.
Wow.
Bam, and he runs the LAFC podcast in Australia from their fan perspective. So he got hooked into us at an early time. So then Bam asks you, do you ever think, why am I doing this, and want to throw in the towel? You ever bang your head against the wall, sitting there going, "What have I gotten myself into?"
Definitely. Well, there was a time where it was like it was close. It was close. I never did I want to throw in the towel, but there was a point where I was like, we're going to be forced to throw in the towel. It was really close for a little bit there, where we needed a big vote to go our way politically. And it was like an 8-7 or 7-6 vote or something like that. So it was tight. So that was the time where I was like, I'm not sure this is actually going to happen. But I don't think anybody within the organization was ever, let's just throw in the towel. It's too tough. Because I think we know that how awesome it's going to be when it is there.
Yeah. And so to update folks on the levels of awesomeness, where do things stand right now? I know that you've got a home. For those that may not remember, you've got a home for your first season, but where do things currently stand?
Yeah, so we'll be playing at Bryant University, which is a local D1 school in Rhode Island for year one, using their facilities. Our stadium will be ready for 2025. So year two will be in our stadium. It's 10,000 seater right on the water in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. So it'll be really nice. It'll be one of the better venues in USL Championship. And just a really nice home. So yeah, that'll be ready for 25.
Okay. And obviously, when things do start and when they do open, that we're going to have to come up and do shows.
Obviously.
Let me turn this into the mentoring part of everything. Do you and Greg and Beyond Goals, and knowing how competitive you guys are as athletes and as businessmen, and as folks that want to help those next generations, do you ever get frustrated at your growth curve? Because I know what you want your growth curve to be. I know what you and Greg want it to be. You guys want to take off, and you want to make sure that you're helping 11 gazillion athletes and doing amazing work. Has the growth curve ever frustrated you? Has the growth ever frustrated you guys, knowing that you want to do more, but for whatever reason, things are slower than you would have anticipated? You had those kinds of growing pains at Beyond Goals as well?
Yes. Because I think that we had ideas to partner with different clubs, and very varied and vague with the word partner, but get in with clubs and provide our services with them. Whether that, not really exclusively, because we didn't want to do that. But, at the very minimum, have them at least let their families know kind of who we are, what we do, and that we're here to help. But clubs are not willing to do that at all. We haven't had one. I don't think we've had a single club that's been wanting or willing to partner with us, use our services, or anything like that. And by club, I mean youth club. So we work with the United Academy. We work with some universities, and we've spoken with some high schools and things like that. But as far as like one of these big pay for play clubs, not one.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's and I don't know for sure, but it's because twofold. One, they don't want to tell their families that they don't already provide these services themselves.
Right.
And two, I don't think that they want their families to spend any money on development or within the soccer realm that's not within their club. Maybe. I don't know. That's just my theories because, yeah. And a lot of them, it's what's in it for me.
And I know that when you don't get to grow at the speed that you want to grow, it's disappointing because you want to get to you want to get to every possible mountaintop you can. You and Greg and sit there and go out with the megaphone or the flugelhorn or whatever they do at the top of mountains, and you want to sit there and say, "Hey, look, we're here for the betterment of the game. We want to help. We want to help all of you." And I wanted to kind of ask that this morning is kind of sit there once again to sit there and go on to this mountaintop and sit there and go, look, you have this resource here that's available to you, and look at it as this resource. And it was a question that popped into my head because of what you and Greg are trying to do. And I know that you guys, you want to have like 11 billion clubs right under your dossier. So we're helping all of these folks. We're helping all these folks. And what else can be done to convince folks that you're trying to do what's best for the sport, what's best for their athlete, what's best for the student athlete? What else can we do to help sit there and trumpet what you guys are trying to do?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Because there's just so many politics involved, I guess. Because it dumbfounds me that a club wouldn't be willing to say, hey, to all their athletes, right? Hey, here's a service that's available. These guys, here's their background, what they do. And they could sponsor some of their players, right? They've got, they're making a lot of money off these families, right? They could absolutely sponsor some of their players, and then some of their players would want to work with us on the side anyways. And if we had a relationship with a club, we'd be willing to sponsor some players as well and do it for free. But for some reason, that hasn't worked out. And so I don't know, it's not our focus anymore, right? Because we've been down that road a few times before.
Yeah.
Use an understatement. And, it's like, fool me once.
Right.
Thing. Just focus is elsewhere now. So,
how far reaching is your focus? How far geographically have you been able to help folks? Because doing things virtually these days, like we are now here with this, you and I can catch up. You're in Ohio. You could be in Rhode Island. You could be wherever, and we're doing a segment.
Yeah.
How far reaching have you guys been able to go here with Beyond Goals to help folks out?
Well, I'd say that still 80% of our business is Atlanta based or in and around. Yeah. But I literally got off a mentoring call right before this, and the young man was located in New York. We worked with a college up here this week, up here meaning Ohio. So I know Greg's mentored somebody from Salt Lakes Academy. Kind of here and there, but definitely focused in the Atlanta area, but open elsewhere.
How three-dimensional is it for folks who just might know Beyond Goals for Beyond Goals? Just, name, Parky, Greg, I know it exists. How wide-ranging are these mentoring sessions? What do you guys do? Do you look at video? Do you do books? Do you write, critiques? What are we looking at here in this three-dimensional sense for when you are mentoring a young student athlete? What are we talking about here across the board when it comes to mentoring?
Yeah, wide range. So like the call I just got off is a young man who's beginning his outreach to colleges, right? That's his pathway. He wants to go to school. And how big of a net does he cast? When does he reach out? When he reaches out, who does he email? Who does he call? What does he include in the email? best practices that way. So all about the recruitment process. So that's on the older end of the mentoring stuff. But then we've got, youth kids that are preparing for tryouts or just dealing with confidence or just want to get better. There's nothing particularly wrong or anything going on, but they know that the mental part of the game is important and they want to work on some things confidence wise and overcoming obstacles and having that base. So we work on it with that. Same thing with like high school teams or the college that we worked with, right? It's like the starting a new season, how you bring the team together and individual goals mesh with team goals and outlook for the season and how to deal with some potential adversity that may come down the pipeline. So yeah, it's a wide variety.
When it comes to the balancing act of individual goals and team goals, I know that that's a Venn diagram that is really tough at times to sit there and navigate for student athletes and for mentors to try to have folks understand the full Venn diagram of that whole thing. What's it like to try to navigate that balance?
Yeah, it's a challenge sometimes. I think that, but it's important to understand how does it fit together, right? And what takes precedent? Because I think that, Greg has always said that his biggest contract of his career came after the team did really well. And that's true for a lot of players, right? And right, it's always easier to stick out and to feel valued when you're part of a team that's winning, right? So I think that's important to understand that. And sometimes the individual goal either gets sacrificed or gets put on the back burner for a short amount of time to focus on the team goal, because the team goal is important, right? And I think that when you're, as an individual, setting up these goals, it's how do I set up these goals in a way that I can help my team achieve their goals as well. So I think it's hand in hand, but I think those individuals or goals are important because the more individuals within a team that are taking steps towards reaching these goals, and we always talk about like, you don't want to just have an end goal for like that's 10 months away because it's too far. You need that constant motivation. So it's like, what are these steps to reach that end goal? You need to have these smaller benchmarks. Okay, I did that. Okay, I did that. Okay, I did that. And like if you do all those, I'm going to reach that end goal. So I think what teams with players that have those things are going to be successful. If individuals are reaching their individual goals, strikers are scoring their goals and wingers are getting their assists and defenders are doing their thing and goalies are getting their shutouts, right? I mean, it's going to help the team win as well.
Are the goals daily? Is it more of affirmational check marks, or is it more having to do with activity-based check marks? Or can you break it down to almost a day-by-day thing, or do you have to sit there and look at it almost from the activity and go, okay, you're at practice, set a goal, another goal tomorrow? How does that play through all of this?
Yeah, I wouldn't think those benchmarks are daily. I think that's more part of the process, right? What's the process of getting towards these benchmarks? And that's the daily activity or daily grind or however you want to call it. But no, I think that the shorter goals for me are a couple weeks or a month, probably not a month, actually. I'd keep it shorter than that. So that you're constantly getting that feeling of accomplishment, right? Of like, yeah, I'm on my way. I did it. Check mark, right? It feels good to check things off the list, to accomplish little things, right? It keeps you motivated. Yeah, I would say week, 2 weeks, anywhere in there, that you can constantly be holding yourself accountable as well.
Michael Parkhurst, our friends at Beyond Goals Mentoring, at MF Parkhurst on the 280 character app, at BG Mentoring on the 280 character app, because I have no earthly idea what to call it anymore. I just know it's 280 characters, and then I'm sending out all these other kinds of things. When it came to you and setting goals as either as a student athlete or a professional athlete, did you do the weekly or the bi-weekly, monthly kind of a thing? What was your process kind of feeling out your own affirmations and progress? What was that like for you as an athlete?
Yeah. One thing I didn't do that I encourage our athletes to do now that I wish I had done during my career was actually write them down. I always thought about stuff and was like, hey, I want to do this or hope to do this type stuff. But I definitely think that you're more apt to hold yourself accountable and actually go after those things if you write it down and put it out there. So for me, it was more, sections of a season. So it would be like, first month of the season, first quarter of the season type thing of, hey, I want to be able to play in this amount of games, or, hope to get this amount of shutouts, or, help to have this many points as a team type stuff. Right. So it was kind of like chunks of a season to kind of get you through.
Do you do that today as a mentor? Do you write stuff down, whether it's, right there at the computer? Do you do Word docs to try to do that same kind of a thing as a mentor now?
Yeah. I've got goals now. Obviously different than sporting goals. But yeah, I do have goals that some of them I've accomplished and some of them I haven't. But they're there to work towards and to improve. Reading is one of them, right? And making sure that I'm constantly reading so that I can increase my knowledge and continue to learn and help provide the best services. So that's an ongoing one.
What's it like for you to cross something off of a list as a mentor? I know that as an athlete is probably one thing, but is it much different now as a mentor when you get to cross something off of a list that comes to an accomplishment?
Yeah, because I mean, the same thing, actually. I think it's still that sense of accomplishment of like, hey, I made it, I put it out there to want to do this and I did it. And that makes you feel good. And that makes you want to continue to do it and do the next thing. And, you get that snowball effect in a positive way. And that's what you're looking for sure in those things.
All right. So now that you and Greg are conquering the planet, that it is world domination, that it is happening here. You mentioned the college program that you're looking after right now. You've got Atlanta United, and I know that for those that need to follow at BG Mentoring on the 280 character app, there get to be some familiar names that you'll sit there and you'll get. Like I saw Matthew Brick with a testimonial a little while ago, and so folks that follow the twos and follow Atlanta United know about Matthew and his path and what we've seen from him and all of those kinds of things. So what is going on right now? You mentioned Atlanta United, you mentioned colleges. What's going on now with the college season getting ready and kicking off and all these kinds of stuff? How busy are you, Michael Parkhurst?
Pretty busy. Pretty busy. Not only, obviously beyond goals mentoring, I'll do some scouting for Rhode Island, see some games over here in Ohio. Coming down to Atlanta next week, John. The Academy's got their dinner to kick off the season. They do it at Mercedes-Benz. It's a formal attire, so the kids all get dressed up. So come down there for that. So excited to do that. But quite busy. And kids have started school and they've got their own programs and stuff. So, daddy daycare is part of that as well.
Yeah, as our breakfast balls, I would hope. You in golf, sir.
Yeah, I played a rare Sunday afternoon round last weekend, and I rarely play weekend golf just because there's responsibilities to be had. But gosh, it was nice. It was lovely. I will say, John, that I played really well, but I hit the house off the tee on one hole, and
that's assumed risk. I'm sorry.
That's actually. Yeah, that's a point of contention. It's like thankfully, I hit the gutter, and literally 2 feet below the gutter was a massive window.
Okay.
This is their back of the house. Massive.
Okay.
So I got an 8 on that par 4 because my head was just gone.
It's no worse than a triple. See, that's the thing. No worse than a triple on a scorecard. You know that.
I actually put myself down for an 8, and I still had an 89, which I was happy with. So it was pretty good. But yeah, so who pays for that if I did break the window? I think I pay for it, but they should have insurance for that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, the way that I've always thought assumed risk worked, if you're going to build a house by the first tee, then you get the plexiglass windows and make sure that stuff doesn't break. Yes, you do the neighborly thing if you break something, but it should fall under assumed risk. At least that's what I was always told. The course is not responsible for anything that happens. If you're going to build a house right next to a tee box, then that should be on you with what happens, since you wanted to see Michael Parkhurst tee off on the first hole.
Thankfully, they weren't out there watching because I didn't want to hurt anybody.
you can just sit there and dodge and you yell 4 once again. That's on them to sit there and go, it's like, okay. But the neighborly thing is, yes, to help take care of expenses. But once again, it's assumed risk. That, as someone who's wayward tee shots are a part of this also. I understand. I know where you, sir, are coming from when all these things happen. Big win for Atlanta United on the road in Seattle. And now they come home for a big game against Nashville in a very, very crowded NFC East. Sorry, Eastern Conference. What's it like? You get a big win on the road. That's obviously got to fuel things for this sprint for United.
Totally, it's a huge win, but that's the challenge, right? Stay hungry. How do you stay hungry? How do you stay motivated? Because you need to build on top of these wins, not feel accomplished from them. And that's where they are. And yeah, this is a big one. Nashville are tough to play against, as we've seen lately. So that'll be a tough one.
No doubt about it. All right, go spend time with family and do things that owners and mentors do. Once again, at MF Parkhurst, at BG Mentoring on the Twitters. Cap, as always, it's great to catch up with you and Greg here in this Friday 9:30 slot, so we can talk about mentoring, talk about soccer, and everything at Beyond Goals. Thanks for hanging out with us, my friend.
Likewise, John. Have a great weekend.